And finally, it's time to share my thoughts about the recently concluded Miss Universe Thailand finals night. Of course, I wouldn't let this pass without me sharing my thoughts about this pageant. For this year's finals, I had decided to watch the show live, all because of my love and support for both Anntonia Porsild and Vina Pravinar, whom I had the pleasure to get to know for the past few years. For me, I consider them friends because we have never lost contact with each other since their respective pageant journeys began. If you all have known me since my time in Sash Factor, you all know how my friendship with these two began. Hence, I am so grateful that these two ladies have never unfollowed me on Instagram, even though most of my content, both on my Instagram and here on YouTube channel, are all mostly Filipino over the years. So, nakakataba talaga ng puso. So, in return for the love that they have shown me, I have decided to reciprocate it. I have decided to reciprocate that love by coming to watch them live for the finals night. And since we are talking about love and support for each other, I also decided not to make a final leaderboard or fearless forecast as to who would win. I really didn't want to hurt either one's feelings, so I just kept it all to myself. Pero I still took notes of their strengths and weaknesses as they both performed in the prelims and finals. So, I left Manila for Bangkok last Saturday night around the same time. Buti na lang long weekend noon. So, justified yung pagpunta ko kahit papaano sa Bangkok. Around the same time that the national competition was happening. At the time, I already had a sinking feeling Antonia would win and Jassy would be her first runner-up while Vina could be in third place. I say this on account of what I had seen from both their prelims and national costume performances combined during those two events. Just by watching the live stream on YouTube, I felt Antonia possessed that winning glow among the three. Every time she would come out on stage, I would really feel something different, like how someone gets electrocuted out of the blue just by watching someone on TV or on stage. And I really felt that with Antonia the most. Maybe it was because Antonia showed something new to my eyes that time. Kasi her pasarela has improved compared to her previous showdown with Vina last month. And she did it again the next night when she came out in her national costume. Talagang I all really felt goosebumps. But then, I was still hoping against hope Vina could turn it around. Of course, her energetic and bouncy walk were a killer, but there was something missing talaga. And it became so evident when I watched her during the national costume competition. I really sensed something was wrong, something was off. I really didn't feel the spark that I had felt for Antonia later on. Of course, I was still hoping I could be wrong. I know both of them are my friends, but if I had to be objective about it, Antonia already had the upper hand then. But deep inside, I would have wanted Vina to be in that position still. But then again, both were my friends and I really did not want to pit them against each other, at least on my social media accounts. So I rode my plane, my Cebu Pacific flight, bracing for an Antonia win. And alas, my hunch was right. So watching the finals night of the Miss Universe Thailand live was really worth the price of admission. Everything was almost perfect from start to finish. I really feel it's one of the best national pageants out there in terms of production values. In fact, it can even eclipse its mother organization in terms of entertainment value. Everything kasi was top-notch. Nakita niyo naman, di ba? Everything was superb. It really is now set. Miss Universe Thailand is now setting the standard for a pageant production in the entire world right now. And I am just so happy I was able to see everything in the flesh. And seeing the long runway of the show in person was really stunning. The venue situated on the venue kung pumunta kayo, nanood kayo ng live, was situated on the top floor of a mall. And by my estimate, the venue only had a 2,000 or 3,000 seating capacity and all tickets were sold out. So imagine the massive collective energy of the fans watching it live. It was really crazy. And every time one of the frontrunners would come out on stage, the fans would really burst out in a massive chant or cheer, which reminds me of how we have been doing it here in our country every time we would watch Binibini or Miss Universe Philippines. Ganun talaga kalakas, guys. So when the show finally started, the crowd really went wild. So the girls came out as they danced. So the girls finally came out as they danced to the song If God Were a Woman in the opening number. And I do understand why the organization probably chose this song as it anchored so much on the empowerment theme. But to be honest, seeing them dance on stage to that song, it really did not hit quite right for me. For me, it was an odd song choice considering it's an R&B song that did not match the intensity or the dance steps of the girls during the opening number. Siguro, in my opinion, they could have at least gotten a livelier song to match the beat or the cadence of the dance steps of the girls. Kasi parang feeling ko may mismatch eh. So, having said that, let's now go to the other aspects of the technical production. When it comes to the stage and production, I just love a stage talaga which has a long runway as it really makes us appreciate all the girls' pasarela side by side, and MUT gave that to all of us. This is how you do it, guys. Pageant organizations. You can make do with a simple bare stage but make it up with your technical values like camera angling, huge giant LED screens, LED lighting, and great choice of music. Although the stage employed by MUT this year felt like a repeat of the Miss USA 2018 stage, they still tweak it for a better viewing experience. The design, lighting on the sides, kung napansin nyo, of the runway gave it a more tight touch and feel, which I really feel utilized or maximized brightened up the entire stage of the production. And for that alone, it's already a winner in my book. So we go to the opening outfits this time around. Those Barbie-inspired outfits with a corset-style top and short skirt were shining and shimmering, and I love how it gave life on stage. However, what I am stunned to discover about these dresses is that it has shorts underneath. So the girls, as I zoom on my video footages taken from my phone, made me feel somehow these girls were protected from dancing or moving a lot on stage. Now we go to the swimsuit competition. Oh my gosh, guys. This segment of the competition is really one of the highlights of the show. The pasarela and fit bodies of the girls really took center stage here. The girls, in my opinion, truly benefited from the long runway by maximizing every corner of the stage. Everything was fantastic. I feel all the girls had equal exposure in terms of camera time. Even the song selection choices were fantastic. And I think they used 3 copyrighted songs for this segment of the competition, and I am just amazed at them because the organization, MUT organization, preferred to pay copyrighted music on YouTube instead of hiring homegrown singers like what it did during the preliminary competition. MUT really has a budget to spare and it really knows where to invest it. Now, having said that, the standouts in this segment of this competition were Warawalan Puklang from Uttaradit. She really opened the show with a bang, and I just love how clean her walk was and became more flirty with her poses towards the end. And I also like Chinacha Prayun Siri's walk. That twirl was flawless and her poses were very commanding, very reminiscent of our very own Bea Luigi Gomez. And next is Chatnalich Jirawat, whom I feel is the #1 girl in this segment of the competition. Her walk and strides were just perfectly clean. Hands down, very clean talaga. The turn, the smiles, the poses, the hair flips were perfect. Everything was just smooth. And second to her is Jassy Schuster, who also had a very smooth and clean performance as well. Those mile-long legs as she crisscrosses and twirls on stage were so smooth as well. And next is Anntonia Porsild, whom I really have to say held her own against Jassy and Chatnalich in this department. In the time that I have been watching her catwalk evolve over the years, I must say she really has improved a lot, and I just love how she now walks with quiet confidence. It's more relaxed now and fluid compared how awkward she was during her showdown with Vina at the early stage of the competition. Now she really keeps improving herself, and that twirl towards the the end was totally spot on. Now we go to Venus Walk. I just really admire her level of confidence that she displayed for this segment of the competition. It was really evident with her walk. However, I feel she was kind of overdoing her walk here with that excess shoulder movement, head banging, and hair touching. Especially the hair touching thing. Na feeling ko she wasn't able to outgrow it from her previous outing in 2020. And then there were also too many distractions, and I hope she had toned it down and opted for a clean and simple walk instead, because I feel for someone like her who has a beautiful face already, she really did not need to resort to this at all. So overall, if I have to rank the girls in this round, I will give the top spot to Chatna Lich, and then second spot to Jazzy, and then third spot to Wuralan, fourth spot for Anntonia, and the last spot for Vina. Next is the evening gown round, and I must say this was the round that I feel underwhelmed me because there wasn't a gown that was showcased that I truly liked, because those gowns paraded were gowns that I have seen in other pageants before. And I also noticed most of the gowns of the girls wore here were in shades of silver and gold, and I don't know if it had something to do with the fact that the new crown's color designs had the same colors, gold and silver. So having said that, let's go now with the performances of these girls. Let's start with Vina Pravinar, who wore this gold long sleeve gown. No doubt she looks so elegant in it, but I really feel her whole look here kind of underwhelmed me. Although she said in a post-coronation interview that she dreamed of wearing a gold gown, it wasn't the gown and styling that I had in mind for her. The whole look for me was a bit too heavy for her given her tiny size. The long sleeve gown and updo hairstyle for me kind of aged her a bit as opposed to her fresh and youthful styling looks that she has been sporting in the past activities of the pageant. And I really feel this kind of styling overwhelmed her. The way she was glam and packaged here during the coronation night, they really tried to make her look very Thai in terms of styling and makeup. So what I would have loved for her to look during the coronation night was for her to embrace her Indian roots instead. I would have loved for her to capitalize on this, on her being an Indian, because this is how she truly looked. Because let's face it, she has tried to look Thai in all her styling choices since 2018. So I really feel she could have done something different considering her packaging is now different. She's now married, looking more confident, and this is her third time na everything was going against her. So if I were her, she might as well would have run the story of being different, of an Indian embracing her Thai heritage. So I would have loved for her to sport something similar to how she looked during the preliminary competition. Or I would have loved for her to sport how Krishna Gravides sported her hairstyle during the Miss Universe Philippines finals last time, wherein Krishna had soft wave curls for her look. And watching her perform on stage that time, I was already starting to worry for Vina in my seat, as this wasn't really a winning look for me. Kasi I really feel her prelims gown was way better, in my opinion. But nevertheless, she still carried her gown very well. She was confident in it, and I think that's what mattered the most. Now we go to Anntonia, who wore this beautiful nude crystal encrusted gown with corset style bodice and beading in key areas. And I thought she looked so fantastic in it as well. She walked elegantly and I love it. This gown was made by Valentier Atelier and it really is a beautiful gown. However, I really wouldn't categorize it as memorable or as iconic as Catriona's lava gown, because her gown is something that I had also seen before. And at this point, I really thought Anntonia glowed so much more than what I had seen from her during the opening and swim round combined. So, kinukutuban na ako at this point na baka siya na nga talaga yung koronahan because of the glow that I have been seeing from her. Next is MUT 51 Chanachida Sukti, who wore this beautiful lavender sexy gown with intricate beadwork in the bodice. And I just love how the diagonal design in the bodice area made her look more shapely and sexier on stage. I thought she had one of the best gowns of the night. And then next came Wurawulan from Uttaradit, who also looks smashing in her silver gown. I just love how she pulled her hair back in a sleek way, giving it a more elegant and sophisticated look. She looks so elegant, and I thought she was a shoe in the top 5, given her collective performance so far. And then we go to Miss Lampun Nicha Punpuka. For me, she also stood out in this round. Although I feel the color of her gown kind of washed her out on stage, I really feel she more than made it up with her youthful energy. Kung napansin nyo guys, she was smiling all throughout in a sea of fierce, sexy candidates parading their gowns on stage. And I thought that gave her the edge. And next is Jassy Tutor. She wore a fitted gold gown and I thought she did okay here. For me, she registered flat because I've seen this kind of gown before and her prelims gown was way better than this gown that she wore. Next, Chatnalich. I just love how she also registered so strong as she paraded this very off-shoulder gown. And although I have seen this gown before, I thought this gown perfectly fitted her fierce persona on stage. Now she really has a strong aura and presence from where I was sitting in this segment of the competition. I thought, wow, this girl is really was also a shoo-in for the top 5. So the top 5 was called and I got surprised that Miss Lampun got called instead of Miss Uttaradit. I really felt sad for her at that moment. Pero at that particular moment as well, there was no time for me to feel bad for Miss Uttaradit as the pacing of the show at this point was becoming so fast. The top 5 was called, they had a short commercial break and immediately went to Q&A. Announcement of the third and runner-up awards afterwards. And that was so fast-paced that I no longer had time to update my followers on Instagram about my real-time thoughts and footages happening around that time. And this is where I realized the MUT organization really has a huge budget for the show. I mean, the mere fact that the live stream was so fast-paced with hardly no commercial breaks from that point until the final look segment meant it can sacrifice or afford to proceed without having to think of their sponsors putting their ads on the show. This and the fact that it can afford to pay royalties for the copyrighted songs on YouTube that it used for the telecast all throughout was just wow. And as an organization, I realized that it could really stand on its own without really relying too much on their sponsors. And I figured it earned so much from its merchandise store where they tap the commercial viability of their frontrunners alone to generate so much revenue for them. And cumulatively, nagulat ako, the MUT organization earned a whopping more than 2 million Thai baht or roughly 62,000 US dollars just on its MUT shop or merchandise store. Of course, this amount was still not enough to mount a telecast as it still has to rely with its heavy lineup of sponsors. But for them to do away with all these unnecessary commercial breaks, which has become a norm for how we do our live pageants here in the Philippines, says about the money that they have within the organization. In just less than an hour after the telecast, the top 12 has been announced. And that's how fast-paced their production is. In 2 hours, the show was over and everyone could go home early for tomorrow's work. And I'm really amazed. So sana all. So going back to the Q&A, let's finally assess the top 3 girls. Since I don't speak and understand Thai, I could no longer evaluate Lampun and Chatnalich's answer. So let's just discuss the collective performances of the top 3 girls in this segment of the competition. So let's start with Vina. She was asked about how she would use her platform to educate others about the importance of protecting our environment. And I love how she was able to incorporate her online TV show for her to be able to do it. However, I feel her answer could have been stronger had she detailed or became more specific on how she would use her online TV show to do this. Like, will she make numerous content through infomercials or conduct numerous talk shows or hold, weekly or daily talk show to talk about it just to achieve her goal. But nevertheless, it was still a logical and direct answer. And although she wasn't as eloquent as her two rivals, considering English isn't her first language, I still thought Vina did well here. Now let's go to Antonia. She was asked about what other things does she consider a foundation of life apart from education. And I really feel she acquitted herself very well here as well, despite not directly answering her question here. She was asked about a foundation of life, but she segued it and turned it to quality of life instead, where she clearly expounded her case here. And I thought it was a smart move for her to do this in answering a very tricky question. And so she went on and on about doing what we love to do and giving back to the community at the same time, and cleverly inserting the taglines of MUT and Miss Universe at the same time, which are Force for Good and Light of Glory. And although she quite deviated from the original question, she still got away with it by being eloquent and having good enunciation of words along with those taglines. And so, in short, she sounded right all throughout. And I thought that was a smart move. Now let's go to Jazzy's answer. She was asked about how she would communicate to people with different views when it comes to a controversy involving politics and youth. And I thought Jassy quite did well here by reminding us the importance of a dialogue or coming together to solve an issue, and ending it in terms of how hopeful she is that Thailand as a country could rise above this given situation as it champions transparency nowadays in its government policies. For me, she sounded right in the end by being neutral in hard-hitting political questions like this one that was asked of her. But if it were up to me, I would have wanted her to be more specific in terms of how she could have properly communicated this dialogue with the government. So guys, if I will at this point in time, if I will be objective about this, I really thought Jazzy nailed this round, with Vina and Antonia coming in second and third in my opinion. So let's now go to the top 3 question and answer. The top 3 question was finally handed out, and it was about a global issue that the contestant would like to shed light on if she were crowned to be Miss Universe Thailand. Jassy was the first one to answer, and she spoke about women empowerment, but the way she expounded it was quite unclear, as she articulated it by focusing on children while growing up. And at this point I thought she quite deviated from how I would have loved for her to expand on it, because it felt like when she talked about the children, she was already including the men in general with her answer. And so maybe she could have linked women empowerment to social inequality, wherein she could have probably addressed the lack of jobs or opportunities available for women like her in third world countries. And at this point, I also felt if she really understood her question well, for her to have given that answer. So now we come to Vina. It was Vina's turn to answer the question, and she talked about climate change. I thought she nailed it when she talked about this global issue that is so timely and relevant. However, the way she expounded or constructed her thoughts was not eloquent or strong enough to convince the judges, in my opinion. First, she spoke about using her online TV show again, which I feel at this point seemed to be a rehash of what she had said during her top 5 Q&A performance. Hence, there was nothing new to hear from her. And then she spoke in Thai to justify her stance while incorporating words like carbon emission, generation policies before resuming to speaking in English to end her statement powerfully. In my opinion, technically she did well here. She sounded right. She answered the question well, but it was her manner of delivery that probably hindered her from winning the crown. It was not as powerful as how her two rivals spoke, even if both her rivals did not answer their questions directly. So I figured in another day with another set of judges, This could have been a winning answer for Vina. Now we go to Antonia last, and she chose to talk about giving back to the community again as a global issue. Technically, again, she did not answer her question and offered something that she had already said in her top 5 answer, just like Vina. But how Antonia articulated it so calmly and confidently despite sounding nervous and being cut off by the buzzer beater at the same time was enough for the judges to overlook that. She sounded right yet again, and it was already enough for the judges at this point, in my opinion. So at this point in my seat while I was watching the whole proceedings, I still hope against hope that Vina would still win since she was the only one who answered it directly. However, I was still open-minded that the crown could go to Jazzy or Antonia, and my hunch was really right. So now people might ask how Antonia won over Vina, who came out with a more direct answer in the top 3. Well, I really feel this is the thing. After thinking it over and over again, Antonia was the safest choice among the 3 because she already has the international following and experience. She already has a title, and given the limited time that they have to prepare, it's logical for MUT to send her since she only has to polish some aspects of her candidacy. But at the same time, you would think, would Miss Universe risk it? Having a previous Grand Slam title holder compete in their pageant system? Would they allow it? Whereas crowning somebody who is equally beautiful with no previous title, which one do you think would be beneficial for MUO at this moment? However, going back to the top 3 Q&A, Antonia and even Jazzy, if we're going to be technical about it, sounded right with their eloquence on English despite not answering their questions very well. In pageants, sometimes kasi guys, it's not the one who has the best answer who actually wins. It's a summation of the collective performances of the lady from the start to finish of the finals night. And in this case, Antonia and Jassy were so consistent from start to finish. They were styled beautifully, had a clean walk, and still sounded right because of their eloquence and facility with the English language. Vina, if I have to be objective about it, looked too heavy with her styling during the night and couldn't really match her rival's eloquence despite answering her question well. In my opinion, Vina and Antonia have very commercial faces and huge marketability appeal, but Antonia had a winning aura that night, which I really didn't feel from Vina from evening gown round onwards. So I don't think it really has something to do with Vina being Indian by roots or married that put her in third place overall. Although I still find this argument very debatable, I do not think this was the main reason she was only relegated to third place. Because if we focus on both Vina and Antonia during the finals night, Antonia was very light and pleasant to look at from all angles, despite having a dark and heavy makeup, as opposed to Vina's strong and heavy styling that night. The glow Antonia had from The glow from Antonia has been very consistent from preliminaries to the national costume show till the finals night, plus her being a pageant veteran and having a good command of the English language may have proven to be an advantage as well. But yes, guys, having said this, I'm still heartbroken for Vina. And that's the reason why I couldn't rejoice enough for Antonia right now. I still feel heartbroken for her. It's her last pageant after all. However, I wouldn't want to end this content without commending her for her tenacity and determination to win her dream title. Vina fought really hard to win, but in the end, Lady Luck wasn't on her side. Like I said a while ago, in another day with another set of judges, she would have won. And we would have acceptedly wholeheartedly. But again, last Sunday wasn't her destiny as I think about it now. This is why I couldn't muster enough courage to seek for an ambush interview with her afterwards, because I can really feel the sadness in her eyes, the day, especially the day after during the press conference. And all I could say was hi and compliment her for a job well done, nevertheless. As for Antonia, I am really confident she has what it takes to win her country's third Miss Universe crown. She is definitely top 5 for me at this point. However, in order for her to win the crown, she still has a lot of work to do. She still needs to show us how she could be a transformative leader for her community through her advocacy, which I feel is the only thing missing at this point. She is beautiful, well styled, and eloquent. And at this point, it's her being a community leader we need to see more if we are to take a page from what happened in Miss Universe last edition. So, there you go, guys. This content ends my Miss Universe Thailand 2023 coverage, and I hope you all had fun watching all my interviews and footages after the show. And as a pageant vlogger, I really try my best to show you guys something different by going out on the field apart from the usual commentary videos I churn out here from time to time. I really had fun watching the pageant, so I would like to thank the entire Miss Universe Thailand organization and Thai Sashes for giving me the access in covering all these events during my short working trip there. I really had a great time. So thank you so much for all your love and support. On the comments section, please do not hesitate to share your thoughts about this content. Kung disagree, may mga sinabi akong hindi kayo agree rin, please let me know. And for those who haven't subscribed yet, please do so, as I will reach 60,000 subscribers soon. Alright guys, until my next video, bye!